Welcome back. My name is Erica, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to make your own personalized outdoor rug for fall. As always, I do have a blog post that goes with this video so that you can go ahead and check out the written step-by-step instructions, but we're going to get right into this tutorial. And first we need to create the design, and we're going to use our Cricut. Now, you definitely do not have to have a Cricut to make your own stencil, but I do have one and I am slowly learning how to use it. So what I'm doing in Cricut Design Space is I'm first making a rectangle that is the size of my rug, just so that I can visualize this. So the rug is 30 inches by 15 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and write W-E-L-C. We are going to do welcome, but then the O is going to be a pumpkin. It's really simple design, but for, this tutorial, I thought it would be nice and easy for all of us to do. So I am using I think it's the Medina font, and I just went ahead and made that black because that's the color that I will be painting it. Then I went ahead and copied and pasted and made the M-E. Then I went to images, hit more images, and then searched for a pumpkin. In this little demonstration here, this isn't actually the pumpkin that I used, but when I made it originally, I had to search and search and search. So that was just a little bit easier to find. And then the material I'm using, when I bought my Cricut, it came with some stencil paper, or whatever you want to call it. And so I used that, but you can also use freezer paper. That's a much cheaper option. But now that we have our design, we're going to go ahead and click Make It. And what I'm doing is I'm loading this stencil paper onto my standard grip mat. You want to make sure that you get all the bubbles out of it and that it's nice and aligned with the grid marks on there. And we're going to have to cut this in 3 different goes. So the first one is the W-E-L-C, then the pumpkin, and then the M-E, just because it will not all fit on this 12 by 12 mat. So we're going to load the mat into the machine, hit that little arrow button. It's going to measure the material, make sure we have enough so that we can go ahead and cut it. And once it's good to go, you hit that little play button and it will go ahead and cut your design out. Now, once the design has been cut, I'm just going to remove that paper from my mat and we are going to weed. You'll obviously have to do this for all 3 pieces. I'm just using this little hook tool that came with my Cricut, and I want everything that I want to be painted, I am removing. So for instance, this pumpkin, I want those moon-shaped or half moon, crescent moon, whatever shaped sections to be removed so that I can go ahead and paint it on my rug. So make sure you're removing everything that you want to be painted. That's the point of the stencil, right? We want to make sure that we're getting those lines. So for the letters, I am going ahead and weeding out the letters because obviously we want to see them show up on our rug. Once we've got our stencil cut out, this is where it gets really easy and fun. I am taking my rug. I got it at Walmart. I think it was $6.97. You can really find them anywhere. Honestly, Walmart was the cheapest compared to Amazon. Amazon, a lot of them were $12, $18, or you could get 2 for $24. This was a lot cheaper, and I found it just in the rug section at Walmart. I'm going ahead and taking off the tag, and then we're going to apply the stencil. Now, I guess I said this was a little bit easy. It is, but if you're very type A like I am, getting the stencil on there exactly how you want it might take a little bit of time. And basically what I did is I laid out all 3 pieces, and then I'm going to use my ruler and just make sure that they're nice and centered and aligned with each other. It is a little bit tricky because you've got the, swooping letters. So what I did is I just kind of measured from the top of the letter and the bottom of the letter and just try to make it as centered as possible. It's probably not going to be perfect, but no one's really going to notice, and it's just something we're stepping on, right? No one's sitting there and admiring it, although you might when it's all done. But you want to do your best, and if it's not exactly perfect, that's okay. But once you get everything aligned, what I'm doing is I'm just using some painter's tape just to get everything where I want it to be. Now the tricky part after you're measuring is peeling off the backing of your stencil. Now it's kind of like a sticker, so it's going to stick to itself. Just be patient, peel it off as best you can, and very carefully you're going to have to kind of remove those pieces from sticking to each other, and that's okay. But once I got everything aligned, like I said, I started peeling off that paper, and what I ended up choosing to do is doing the letters first and leaving the pumpkin for last. I wanted to make sure that the pumpkin was nice and aligned so it almost looked like it was part of the written word. So here you'll see I kind of got ahead of myself. I'm peeling off the backing. I don't know that there's any real great way to do this. If there is, let me know down in the comments. Like I said, I'm sort of new to Cricut. I've made tons of shirts and a few stencils, a few like, written words. But anyway, this was kind of one of the first times I've done a stencil. But so yeah, like I said, if you have any tips, let me know. But I did get it nice and straightened out, and I'm using that painter's tape again to make sure it's all nice and flat. I did watch someone else, and she actually used glue dots on the back of the stencil to keep it down, especially where you've got, the in between the words where it's a little flimsy and you really don't want it to be lifting, so you're getting a nice clean line. So that might be an option for you if you want to go ahead and use those glue dots. But like I said, I'm going to do the letters first. So I'm just going ahead and taking off that ME and getting it as aligned as I can. I did go back in with my measuring tape and made sure that everything was as aligned as I possibly could get it. And then it was time to paint. Now, when choosing paint, I think it's best practice to find a paint that is good for outdoor use. You're going to have this possibly in the elements depending on where the door is that you're putting this at. At the very least, it's hot and cold and different temperatures. You want to make sure that you're using a paint that is rated for outdoor. Now, I did find some outdoor acrylic paint at Hobby Lobby for like $1.50 or something like that. You could go to places like Home Depot and find actual outdoor paint. You could also use Flex Seal. It's actually not paint, it's rubber. But if you're doing black lettering, then you can go ahead and use that. I chose to just use paint that I could find at an inexpensive price, and then we're going to seal it. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I chose to do the welcome word in black. You could go with a variety of different colors, whatever you can find and whatever is going to look good with your particular design. I am using a stippling brush, and I think that's really great for the first pass, but I did go in later with an actual just regular kind of flat, small brush to do a second coat. But using a stippling brush really works well, like I said, to get that first coat on. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the letters. I let that dry for, I don't know, maybe an hour, and then, like I said, went back in with just a regular brush and really tried to get as much saturation as I could, because I want these letters to look nice and professional and really solid. So I would highly suggest, again, going back in, and it's really hard to make a mistake when it comes to this because you've kind of already outlined everything. So going back in, like I said, highly recommend. Now I will say that if you mess up a little bit like I do and get paint anywhere else on the rug, it's almost impossible to get it off. There was one little spot where I got a little bit of black paint and I tried to cut it out and it didn't work. So just be careful. You can maybe turn that splotch into part of the design. it didn't really fit. You can see it's on the L. Again, it doesn't matter. It's going to get dirty eventually, and so hopefully that will blend in a little bit better. But now that I've got the letters and they are dry, I'm going to align the pumpkin. Now, in this particular design, the pumpkin, it kind of came off in two sections. So this is really the general outline of the pumpkin. I went ahead and put that down, and then I put in the other section. Again, I'm not the best with the Cricut. I can do this project, obviously. It was pretty easy. Maybe there's a better way to cut that out, but it is what it is. So I went ahead and stuck the other portion of the pumpkin on there that's got the lines of the pumpkin, and then we were ready to paint that. Now, for this particular pumpkin and for the letters, what I didn't mention is, like, for the E and for the vines on this pumpkin, you don't want to forget to put those little tiny pieces where you don't want it to be painted. Otherwise, you're just going to have a blob. Now, I kind of messed up a little bit on the vine. That's okay. I just went in with some lighter colored paint, and I think it turned out okay. But just be cognizant of that you're going to have those little tiny pieces. Now, this paint that I used for the pumpkin wasn't necessarily an outdoor paint. It was a multi-surface paint, and I'm okay with using that because we are going to seal it. So again, use your discretion, but you want to have paint that's going to last, you know, with the foot traffic and the elements. So just keep that in mind. I like to remove the stencil when it's still wet and just see what I've got and what I'm working with. And then again, for the pumpkin, I let it dry and I went back in. Really, for this, I wasn't going to get full saturation, and I was okay with kind of that more rustic look. I haven't tried this, but I have seen people use like a condiment bottle with their paint to get even more saturation. So you might want to try that. You can pick those up really inexpensive at like Walmart. So just keep that in mind, but going back in and giving it a little bit more definition, filling that part of the pumpkin in a little bit better, and then we can move on to the final step. Now, the final step to make this waterproof and to keep it nice and sealed is to use a Flex Seal or some type of spray rubber. I found this at Walmart. It was a little bit pricey, but hopefully I can use it for other projects. And we're just going to, you know, spray it all over the rug. And when I say pricey, by the way, it was like $13. Hopefully I can use it again. It's not the most expensive thing, but anyway. So giving it a nice, good seal, and the can does recommend that you let it sit for 24 hours. That's in like if you're using it on a house type of project, but I did let this sit for 24 hours before I put it out because we will be walking on it. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Again, I'll have everything linked down below, including the blog post that goes along with this tutorial. But stay tuned for the next video. I will be showing you how I styled this and decorated for fall. But thanks so much for being here. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I upload a new video. But again, thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.